Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. We're looking at Emmanuel Macron, the former economy minister of the current president, François Hollande, who's running for president as an independent, and for the first time in one poll on Wednesday, found himself in the lead in the first round, leapfrogging far-right candidate Marine Le Pen, who Macron would beat handily in a runoff if the election were held today. It's being held end of April. With us to talk about it, Laurence Haïm, spokesperson for the candidate. We're also in the company of Boris Jamais-Fournier, who is with the Socialist Party, whose candidate is Benoît Hamon. And Charles Beigbeder, representative of the Council of Paris, elected official who supports the Conservative nominee, François Fillon. Just before the break, we were talking about Women's Day. On Wednesday night at a Paris event marking International Women's Day, Macron introduced his wife Brigitte on stage. 20 years his senior, she was his high school French teacher in the northern city of Amiens. Macron telling the audience she would be a real first lady. I guess an allusion to the current president, who has... I suppose that's what it meant when he said that. But in any case, he also talked about having a female prime minister. France has had female prime ministers in the past. And this is interesting because several times, and in that you talked about this trip to a working class suburb of Paris the other day, he mentioned it again. He brought forth ideas which sounded like those that had been floated at one point by Nicolas Sarkozy of positive discrimination. And this is in a country where that is frowned upon because France has this notion of assimilation, not multiculturalism. So we're not supposed to pay attention to race, religion, gender. This idea of saying I'm going to have or probably going to have, he wasn't certain about it, a female prime minister. Is that something you should be touting in France?
It's very important for Emmanuel Macron to make sure that it's not only words when he speaks about women. Usually in France, and especially in French politics, people are taking women and they give them small jobs, or they make sure that they're going to some areas where they cannot win. And he's trying to change that. He wants more women in politics. He wants to make sure also that women are going to be paid the same wage than men. This is really a national cause for him. He was talking about that. And he's trying to find women to make sure that his government will be the reflection of the French society with serious women who are trying to do something for their country.
We already have positive discrimination in the National Assembly with rules about parity when it comes to elected officials.
We do. You're talking about words and acts, and so I'm very happy you're doing this because the left and the Parti Socialiste has been talking the talk, but also walking the walk with women's equality over the last few years. Actually, the candidates for the general elections are 50-50 women and men for the upcoming election, and truly showcasing his wife as a first lady, is that how a true feminist would act? I doubt it.
He's saying no. He said yesterday that he was a true feminist in a new way.
He said it then.
Yeah, he's really. It's
well,
really
it's good
important.
to say that. It's good to have this type of objective. But at François Fillon, we are doing it, and more than half of our candidates for the national elections are women, of course. And just also a quick note on there was a law that was voted under the Sarkozy presidential law Copé-Zimmermann that oblige all boards of listed companies in France to have more than 40% of women on the board. And the good news is that now it's taking place, and France has been ranked first nation in Europe in terms of ratio of women in board meetings.
Let me explain to you something as a woman. I don't know why it's taking place because last Sunday, I was in a meeting with 200 women. They came to En Marche because they said it's really difficult for us. We still feel discriminated in our work. We still feel that we're not having the same wage.
I'm not saying the contrary.
2 weeks ago, I was again with 250 women, and they were all saying the same thing. And Emmanuel Macron knows that maybe there's a law, but inside some French companies, it's extremely difficult to be a woman. You have some boards where
you don't need to scream. I was just saying that
I know,
there was a good news.
I'm not screaming. I'm very passionate about
French
this
corporations
issue. I'm very
are doing the
passionate
job.
about this issue in France about women
almost
equality.
40% in the composition
But
of their
more
boards
broadly,
are women.
more broadly, is France
Far
changed
beyond the UK,
more broadly?
Denmark, and
And I think Emmanuel
Germany.
Macron yesterday was also saying that he wants to re-emphasize the testing inside the companies to make sure that it's not only words, but that women will have a kind of equality inside each company.
Great.
That testing, as you say, he also said it about minorities. Boris Fournier, your thoughts on this? Positive discriminations coming to France? That's a radical change for this country.
It is, but when you're faced with discrimination, you have to fight with radical tools. And I think Emmanuel Macron has made quite a few proposals on equality testing and this type of activities. I think this is going in the right direction. So it's not a total rejection of Emmanuel Macron. Of course, he's pushing some items on the progressive agenda, and I think it is good. You're mentioning good news, though.
Discrimination, and just to be clear, it's objectives is parity, but it's not. We are not willing to go towards the positive discrimination, as
the
you
thing
said.
is, your party is not respecting it, though. Over and over again, Les Républicains has chosen to pay fines instead of applying the parity law. Yeah. So I feel like again and again, the left is pushing for social progress, and I'm proud to be part of that family.
All right, you were telling us in part one, Charles Bédé, about how you feel that Emmanuel Macron's electorate so far seems more fickle than diehard supporters of the socialists or of the conservatives. Yeah. One of the issues that will really determine whether or not there'll be broad consensus is his economic agenda. After all, last year there were mass demonstrations. They came from the left against a labor reform that he helped to drive. Sanam Chantier has the story.
Emmanuel Macron presents himself as a radical centrist and an economic safe hand. He proposes to give more say in how companies are run to employees rather than shareholders. While the 35-hour working week would stay, individual working hours could be negotiated based on activity or even age.
How can we believe in this day and age that the law should be the same whether we're 25, 40 or 55 years old, and that by definition we don't have the same working situation?
Macron also wants to make retirement more flexible, with the possibility of ending a career at 65 or 67, depending on the individual's trade or personal situation. The former economy minister also wants to cap compensation for workers in case of dismissal. Controversial measures that were chopped from France's recent labour law. Macron also promises to bump up pay packets by cutting health and unemployment social contributions workers pay on their earnings. He aims to bring take-home pay closer to an employee's basic salary. In this case, a couple earning minimum wage would save around €500 each year. Social security tax would be increased by 1.7% to fund this measure. Emmanuel Macron wants to make it easier for companies to invest by permanently lowering hiring costs, especially for low-paid workers. Under Macron, unemployment benefits would no longer be financed by social security contributions, but through taxation, with new rights for the unemployed.
All employees will be entitled to unemployment benefit if they decide to resign.
In exchange, the unemployed would be obliged to accept job offers corresponding to their skills. In terms of taxes on wealth, Macron says professional assets would no longer be deductible, but inheritance and property taxes would be increased.
All right, so a more flexible labor force, and that really created a split within your party when there was initial attempts to do this. But, you know, we're in a country that has chronically high unemployment. There needs to be a big bazooka approach, say some.
Well, I hear that Emmanuel Macron favors a policy in which when someone who's seeking a job is rejecting two offers for a job that might be paid less or might be far from their home or not well aligned with their skills, they are no longer eligible for welfare benefits and employment benefits. I think that's the wrong way to go. Emmanuel Macron has said that he's in favor of less public spending, less public service, doing away with a 35-hour week. So really going against any kind of social progress that the left has been pushing forward for the last few years. So I'm actually very worried about this, and that's why I'm rooting for Benoît Hamon, who's actually trying to help workers' rights to go forward and make their lives their lives better.
The problem is when we go into the details.
Is he one of yours, Emmanuel Macron? Tighter restrictions on how many times you can refuse a job offer, lowering of payroll taxes?
It's not enough. We have a labor market which is so rigid that we need a true liberalization of this labor market. And Macron, on this subject, like on many other subjects, is the little prince of ambiguity. And he says things that please everyone in these incredible sectarian meetings. And then when we look at the details, for instance, what should we do?
Talking about unemployment, you think it's sectarian meeting? This is the most important issue for the people who are voting.
Yeah, sure.
It's not sectarian meeting. It's explaining to people how you're going to give them work.
He says things that are not real.
It's really shocking that you're saying about work
I really believe it. We need radical reforms. Only Fillon is proposing that. That's why he was so attacked. And now,
in which way?
You're right. It's incredible that France has still 11% unemployment, while Germany, UK, all the countries similar to France are now with 5% unemployment. It's a shame, and we need radical changes.
Yes, and the radical changes, it's coming about work from Emmanuel Macron, who is realistic and who is going to try to do. Hold on.
I laugh.
No, I don't think you should laugh because there are a lot of people who are looking for jobs, who want to work.
They will disappoint.
Hold on. They want to work. They don't want to dream. They want to work. They want to make sure that when they're working, they're going to have more money. Okay. And he's the candidate of work. This is really important.
Yes, and then,
he wants an unemployment rate at 7%. He said that he's going to do it.
Hang on, you say there that when they work, they're going to have more money. The problem is we have anemic growth in Europe. Wages have not gone up since the 2007 crisis.
He's going to make sure that people, and especially companies, are going to have less what we call the cotisation. That is going to reduce things for the companies. The people will be able to make more money with a reduction.
So lower payroll taxes will mean more salary?
How is that different from what we've seen over the last 30 years? How is it any different from the failed policies of the last 30 years?
It's going to be very different. For instance, when you know that 80% of the people in France are not making a lot of money. They're making less than 2,000 euros a month. And he's going to make sure that he's going to suppress some, what we call in French, cotisation salariale, meaning about health insurance and about the unemployment insurance. And he's going to make sure... hold on.
The CSG will be increased.
He's going to do that. And he's going to make sure that people who are trying to, in the middle of their life, because we live in a very different world. So when they're going to have to adapt to the globalization, they're going to be able to maybe lose a job, but to do a formation, and it's called the continual formation, and to be trained again to work
Laurence,
again.
That's not new.
But you know
it's not new at all.
That's not new at all.
That's why I'm saying we need changes.
At each level.
True changes.
No. It's really
we disagree on the
it's
changes.
really true changes.
But what you propose is what social democracy is proposing for the last 30 years. It doesn't work.
But it's going to work with Macron because he's going to apply on the field what he's saying, and that's the difference. And the ongoing formation, when you're 45 years old in France, and you know that, when you're 45 years old in France or you're 50, it's
very
over.
difficult to find a job.
It's over. And you just say...
Because the labor market is not fluid enough.
Not only that. Not
fluid enough, and also because it's difficult to find a job, and then you have to create it.
Because it's the readaptation of the labor market.
Of jobs.
No, it's the readaptation of the labor market in the new world, which has to be redefined again. And that's what he's going to do with a very specific program about when you're losing your job at 45 years old or 50 or even 40, you're going to be able not to go and dream.
I'm not sure Mr. Macron knows very well how it works.
You're going to be able to have a new formation. You're going to be able to...
You already said it.
No, hold on.
Mr. Macron, you know that Mr. Macron has only 3 years work experience, in fact. And that was at the Rothschild Bank.
You cannot say that.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's so young. It's great. He's very talented.
And you don't think it's...
Okay, the guy has no work experience at all. He's talking about the labor market without knowing what he says.
39 years old and he's looking at the reality, and it's a new generation
8 years of
compared to
university.
yours, which
Right.
is coming for
Then,
the best of France.
6 years at the government.
Let me bring
but
it-
just 3 years of work.
He's also a man who made himself known telling workers they could not read and telling someone who was not wearing a suit that he was not worth respect.
was on-
So coming from the left, it's not the best news, to be honest.
But he does have private sector experience, contrary to most of the other candidates. And even though it was at a bank at Rothschild, but
a private sector experience when you're a public servant and you have, the risk-free experience of being able to go back to wherever he was, Inspection des Finances or whatever, is not exactly the private sector experience of the young people who struggle to make a living and to
He has a
start
theoretical knowledge of the...
let me ask, Ari, let me just ask, because we're running short on time.
sorry.
There's going to be a presidential election. After this presidential election, we were kidding around a little bit at the beginning about what En Marche is, how to translate the in movement or I guess on the move is what you suggested. You're saying it's not a political party, right?
At this moment, it's a movement.
It's not a political party, but there's going to be, after the presidential election, legislative elections.
Yes, and we're doing the battle at this moment.
So if you
to
have
make
candidates,
sure-
doesn't that make you a political party?
We have two battles at this moment: the presidential one and then the legislative
Because
one.
here's-
And hold on, you asked me a question.
I haven't finished asking yet. The question is
The
that...
question is, we want to make sure that we're going to have a majority which is going to support the president and to make sure that we're going to reform in a new way France. And that's why at this moment,
But right
we're
now-
launching a movement, and it's completely new.
France's legislative, and I know that Emmanuel Macron wants to change that, but the current system under which those legislative elections
And
will
that's-
take place
Okay, and that's why
is let me just finish my
go
question.
ahead.
Let me get to the end of it.
Yes.
Is the two-round system just like for the French presidential elections? It reduces significantly.
What's your question?
Even if you have great candidates in the 577 districts for the National Assembly, it's improbable at this point in time that Emmanuel Macron will have a majority. So the question is, how do you govern at that point?
we'll see. We're going to have a strong majority. And you know what? I want just to tell you something. Emmanuel Macron wrote a book, and it is called Revolution. We want to do a democratic revolution. That's important. It's far away from the parties, but we believe in the power of people, and we believe in the sincerity of people who want to try to do something in a new way.
Boris
one
Jamais
thing,
Fournier,
one
what's
thing.
your
Frightening.
prediction? What's your prediction when it comes to the legislative elections?
So my prediction is the democratic revolution that Laurence is talking about is not going to happen, because with Emmanuel Macron, 9 people, so this legislative committee, 9 people are picking the candidates. With the Socialist Party, as it's always been done in the past.
That's not true. I
I
see
just finish
no,
my
but
sentence?
that's completely
The
untrue. I see the commission, which is doing a democratic work. It's
a
6 men, it's 6
nine-person
women,
committee.
3 men, and they're picking
That's
up
fine.
the
If
people.
Macron wins,
That's
do we?
fine.
If
It's
Macron
fine.
wins,
That's
do
not
we have a
even
hung
picking
parliament?
Picking candidates. Well, in the Socialist Party, every single person who is a party member is electing the candidates. So that's an entirely different system.
Right, but
much more
but at the
democratic, to
polls,
be
what's
honest.
going to happen at the polls?
I'm not a wizard. I don't know.
Could we have a hung parliament?
We could, of course. Yeah, sure.
If Emmanuel Macron wins the presidency, Charles Begbede, what happens in those June legislative elections?
Well, I don't know, but it's true that when someone wins, becomes president, there is a kind of a movement in favor of the new elected president. However,
There's momentum.
there is a momentum, knowing that they are starting with nothing. There is a very strong probability that they will not have the majority at the
What's going to happen if your
National Assembly.
What's going
So,
to happen if your candidate is indicted?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
What?
What do you mean?
What
That
do
would
you mean,
definitely
nothing?
weaken the presidency.
Do you see what's happening for the image of France all over the world with what's happening at this
No,
moment?
come on.
So you're talking about democracy, and your candidate might
But
be
you know,
indicted.
sorry, but Mr. Macron.
No, I'm asking you
Mr.
a question.
Macron
I know
might be
the
indicted as well, because apparently there is
What?
he has forgotten to declare his wealth.
No, he was the only
He's
one
not
to
following
do
all the
that.
rules. Yeah, Mr.
be
Armand
honest-
has also
No,
probably
But
been
we're
indicted
talking
for
about-
some.
You know that you have a big.
Sorry, but
No, honestly,
this
you
is-
know, and
as
again,
we know that
this is the freedom
some
of-
judges are instrumental by
is the
by
beauty
the
of
power.
dem-
We don't care about
Hold on.
indictment.
This is the beauty
All right, so
of
you don't-
democracy to debate, okay?
And
I'm just
people
saying
will-
that
will,
when you're
judge.
talking about democracy, just respect democracy.
Exactly.
Okay, your
And
candidate has a
French
major
people will
problem
decide.
at this moment. He's criticizing
the
judges.
the justice
and
system
the
will
press.
decide who is guilty or not.
French
And
people,
your
I think
candidate-
French people is aware now of this affair for Fillon. Probably
Sure.
not enough for your
Sure.
candidates. So they will decide, they will vote, okay? And we'll see.
Sure, but the justice system will have to make a decision, though, about whether or not François Fillon did things he shouldn't have done,
but then
including should he have started up a consulting shop 2 days before being elected to the parliament to work with the
fine.
private sector.
Then
these are very, very
this-
critical
the
moves.
Ethics
The
certainly
procedure will be,
inside. We're inside the
fulfilled.
last 7 weeks of the campaign, and as you can see, ethics are playing a big part of it. I want to thank Laurent Saïm, Charles Becbédé, Boris Jamais-Fournier. But stay with us just for a few more minutes. It's time for Media Watch. And we say hello to Diptyque Laurent.
Hi, François.
We heard a little exchange there of barbs about who's got skeletons in the closet.
Ethics, yeah. Well, there's a lot of focus on Macron's possible skeletons in the closet, particularly one that came out yesterday that was revealed by Le Canard Enchaîné that accuses Macron essentially of favoritism. Lobs, the website Lobs is looking at this. And just to give you a little summary of that, this dates back to January 2016 when he held a party in Las Vegas during the Consumer Electronics Show. It must be said he was economy minister at the time under François Hollande. And that party cost almost 400,000 euros. The problem is Business France, which is kind of the national agency that takes care of French business interests, if you like, or investments, gave the gig to a comms agency called Havas without going through a so-called public bidding process. So as a result, Le Canard Enchaîné in its investigation is saying, well, is he guilty of favoritism? Authorities, for the moment, are looking into it, but there's no investigation.
Thank you for
yet.
saying that, because the Minister Michel Sapin yesterday said that Emmanuel Macron and his cabinet do not have anything to do with that, and that it's Business France, and that Business France should be investigated.
Absolutely, but
Okay,
there
so
is
why are you-
investigation. There is an inquiry underway. There's no formal investigation, but they're looking into these allegations.
For Business France, not for
That's
Emmanuel
right.
Macron. Right, correct?
But if any wrongdoing is found, well, since
No, but if any
since-
wrongdoing is found, it will be for Business France,
Certainly.
which is a state agency which does not have anything to do
but
with Emmanuel Macron.
was minister at the time, and the party was hosted
And
within his
when you're
presence.
booking an hotel
So
room,
for me-
when you're booking an hotel room working at France 24, you're going through your travel agency. The travel agency is booking your hotel room, and you're not.
But all scandals,
that's
it won't look
exact-
good on him. That's the point. And this is the point
Yes,
that
of
Le
course, they
Canard
have to find
Enchaîné is
something on
making.
him,
It
and
won't look good on
it
him.
doesn't have anything to do
Anyway,
with what happened.
I just
with
want to move
Business
on. I
France.
want to show you a tweet here, just to keep the mood a little bit light. This person says, Emmanuel, always be careful what happens in Vegas. Remember what happened to Ross and
But
Rachel
I
from
don't like
France?
that, because it's not light in the. I don't like that. I don't think it's light when you again. I think you should look at the fact, and I'm quite
Well,
surprised.
the fact
no,
is-
hold on. You're
the
quite
fact is
surprised by that.
there are
I'm really
investigations
quite
underway.
surprised by that. Not about Emmanuel Macron,
No,
about Business
but he
France.
was
and you're
economy
mixing
minister
both
at the
together
time.
because you want to make sure that it's going to be the talk of the week to find something about Emmanuel Macron.
I didn't make this story up. This is in Le Canard
yes,
Enchaîné.
the fact
No.
is against that Emmanuel Macron does
Laurent
not have
Saïm.
anything to do with that.
Well, that's of course. I understand you're from his team, so of course that will be your
No, I'm
statement.
looking at the fact.
Le Canard Enchaîné says that there is
an inquiry going on, and it's an
inquiry
informal
Not
going
on Emmanuel Macron, on
but
Business
into
France.
what happened in
Again,
Las
okay,
Vegas.
okay.
All right.
So
you
anyway,
find the thing to
I
make
just
noise
want to
and-
look at
We-
this article from the Canadian broadcaster, because there is a lot of interest in Macron from a foreign point of view. There's a lot of, I guess, interest in how he's managed to rise so fast, to become possibly a leading presidential candidate. And this is a really interesting article because it says many people thought the bubble would burst, but it hasn't. And
No, it hasn't
and
burst.
one of the good things about Macron is that, he's highly intelligent and he's photogenic. That works in his favor. He's also been helped in part by luck by the chaos of French politics at the moment. That's what this author says. And he's managed to sort of ride that wave. And that's what really could explain how he's been able to come so high so quickly. And that whole idea of him being sort of a maverick young candidate that could shake up the traditional French electoral system. And that's something that people from the outside are looking at.
Let me just ask a question then on this to Boris, because Emmanuel Macron, just to remind viewers of the timeline, goes into the race quite early. And he's the sort of centrist, picks off some social democrats from inside of your party. Did that help Benoît Hamon? The socialists thought, there's already a centrist, let's have a left-wing candidate.
To be honest, my recollection is that Emmanuel Macron started off not portraying himself as a centrist, more as a candidate that's neither left nor right. And to be honest, he was quite out of the spectrum. And
so it didn't impact on the primary race.
To be fair, the Parti Socialiste is not running a campaign against Emmanuel Macron. It has nothing to do with it. The Parti Socialiste is running a campaign to help the French people and the French citizens who need answers about jobs, the economy, rights, and moving forward.
All right, so much more to say. Unfortunately, the clock has caught up with us. Diptyque Laurent, I want to thank you. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.